Following the severe drought that occurred last year, the governor and the fact that they had the lowest early April snowpack in the last 75 years, Governor Brown of California issued the first ever mandatory water reduction in April of 2015. And this image that I have here, it shows on the right, this was a picture that was taken in the exact same day in 2010. And the measuring pole that they're using is exactly the same pole that's being used over on the left-hand side of the screen. Although you can see the top of the pole here, that's where he's pointing to with the ski pole. That's the top of the measuring pole they're using. Over here, you can't even see the top of the pole because it's off the picture. And same day, and there's no snow at all. And that's exactly what Graham was referring to. The reservoir status, and this is something that I found very interesting. The red line on this graph shows their historical average for reservoir levels. And you can see there's 12 of them, and the ones in the north have a little bit more water in them, certainly, than the ones in the south. But the problem is most of the population is in the south. And so the Southern California reservoirs are only at 33% of capacity, and 61% of California residents live in that area, Southern California. So what it meant was that the governor's solutions were that there was a mandatory use reduction in each city of 25 to 36%. So each city had to reduce the amount of water they were using for between 25 and 36%. And that was primarily set up with measurements that they've done in each city. So for example, a community like Beverly Hills that has big homes, big lots, a lot of irrigation, they had more to reduce than some of the smaller communities that had smaller lots, smaller homes that didn't use as much water. They have a requirement to install a drought barrier. This is just outside of San Francisco, the West Falls River, to prevent salinity from getting into the delta. And government was to provide authority to the utilities so that they could have increased enforcement opportunities with their customers. So they had the authority to do enforcement actions. And then the Energy Commission in California approved stricter standards for appliances and fixtures. So on this graph, and it's a little bit hard to see and it's hard to understand, but it shows the difference between water usage between agricultural and urban, and that's certainly something that Graham referred to earlier. You can see that the residential use, and that's very carefully monitored, has been increasing over time. It's gone down a little bit here at the end of 2010 because of the improvements in fixtures and appliances. But generally speaking, there's been a gradual increase. But you can see the agricultural use is significant. And that's not to say that agriculture is a bad guy, right? I mean, we need the food. It's important work that they do. We're hopeful that they can find ways to perhaps reduce the amount of water they use through improvements in their irrigation technology. This is an image of Governor Brown, and this was when he had his press conference, and this was a graph of the precipitation that they've had since 1970 over that period of time to 2014, and you can see they have a lot of ups and downs over the course of the years, but in the last couple of years it's been in steady decline. And the problem now that they have is that in the last several years they've had a dwindling amount of supply coming into their reservoirs each year. So at the end of the season, the reservoir is lower than it was the previous season, which makes it even more difficult for them to recover. If they started out low at the beginning of the year but got enough rainfall or melt-off to fill the reservoir by the end of the season, then they could go into the next season starting at zero, right? But they're not. They're starting the next season at below zero. And so it's going to take many years of higher than average precipitation, whether it be snow or rain, in order to recover. And I think that's what the governor is absolutely afraid of, that they're not going to be able to do that. Again, this is another slide of the information from California that shows some of the drought. And generally what this is saying is the areas within the state that are covered by drought, okay? And so you can see over here on the left for the first 10 or 15 year or 5-year period of time here, you know, there was less than 40% of the state that was covered by drought in that period of time. But over here, and what really prompted the emergency is that in 2014, 100% of the state of California was in severe drought. And in 2015, it wasn't much better. And you can see how this has been increasing over the last several years. So that's what I'm getting at. The issue here is a long-term issue, and it's not going to go away anytime soon.